basketball. I applied the work that I put in this offseason. It's not going to be pretty every night. Tonight I got it going and was able to show up big time for my team.
It's game one. It's the first test for us. We've literally been together for 9 days as a full group. We got some returning guys, but we got a lot of new pieces that's going to play a big role in our success this year. So we look forward to watching the film tomorrow and get better from tonight.
All right, Chris Broussard is back with us. All right, Broussard, this game perhaps a sign that the gap between these two teams is closer than Nick wants to admit?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, the Lakers should be the favorites. I've picked the Lakers, and I'm sticking with the Lakers. They should be the favorites. But this is not a cakewalk. This is not the KD Steph Warriors. All right, this is not just a foregone conclusion. LA's going to win. They have to ball because the Clippers are a good team. Clippers are not only the second best team in the West. They are the second best team in the NBA. Okay? And so Nick can make all his noises and hoot and holler, and maybe he'll throw out a word like apoplectic when it's his turn to speak. But the Clippers are legit. Here's the thing. We know the Lakers didn't play well. And look, the same thing happened last year on opening night. We don't have to make too big of a deal out of this game. But guess what? The Clippers didn't play well either. Okay, in the first quarter, you saw the ball movement, the player movement that Ty Lue wanted. Excellent spacing. They looked tremendous. From the second quarter on, they degenerated into too much ISO ball. Kawhi, it was too much. Kawhi shot too much. At times, he looked like a ball hog. And then when Paul George in the third and fourth quarter, it was all Paul George. Now, he was hot, so it worked, but it was too much ISO like last year. They're trying to get away from that. So they will get better and have more player movement, more ball movement. The Clippers are legit. I still got the Lakers, but the gap, this is going to be tough for the Lakers. LeBron understands that. Everyone does except Nick.
Yeah. Okay, everyone except Nick and, the team that beat him last year and the 4 teams that went further in the postseason and every team but the Jazz that didn't blow a 3-1 lead in the postseason and throw up all over themselves and the 20 teams that didn't need to fire their coach out of embarrassment. All those teams, they also understand it. Listen, I think Broussard makes a good point. Paul George and Kawhi should have shared the ball more because you got to let Nick Batum, Luke Kennard, and Patrick Patterson get shots up. I mean, you just got to. Those guys need to shoot it to get in rhythm, and that's a major part of the Clippers' rotation, and you got to do it. Do you see who these guys are putting out there?
Notice
they have
the names
one significant. Batum started. Kennard, they gave $16 million to in their biggest offseason addition other than Ibaka. That's why. That's the changes. The changes are we have added the 4th best player from an Eastern Conference semifinalist, Serge Ibaka. We have traded for Luke Kennard, who the Detroit Pistons were like, don't think you can help us this year. And we've added Nick Batum, who the Charlotte Hornets said, I would like to give you $27 million to go anywhere else, not be here. And that'll fix it. Listen, that's going to fix it. And Paul George was asked after the game about superstar treatment, and I thought he gave a quote that his teammates are going to love, which is when he said, listen, the guys who work the hardest are the best, and we deserve everything we get. Chuck, you get that, to Charles Barkley. It's like, oh, okay, good to hear it. Glad you've learned, Paul George. But yeah, listen, let's just crown him. Let's put them in the conference finals, which is really will be a nice thing for them since as a franchise they've never made one. Last year, folks did this. I feel like it didn't end well for them. But what do I know? I'm just the only guy in America who had it right about the Clippers last year, and now we're going to do it again. So, yeah, Brandon, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for folks to not learn their lesson because I thought it was going to be not fun this year, that everyone was going to acknowledge the Clippers are a second-tier team, but evidently not. They're right there. So let's run it back.
Yeah, Nick, this is a simple answer. The gap was never large. There really was never a gap outside of a global pandemic. When you think about it, LeBron said that this was probably his hardest championship because they had to go to Orlando, go into the bubble, and be away from their families for months, right? And I believe LeBron. There's only a few LeBrons, though, that is built to be able to galvanize his team and lead them to a championship. The Clippers was the first team that stood up and said, we don't want to go to the bubble. And then once they got into the bubble and racial tensions start soaring again, the Clippers were the first team beside the Lakers that said, we don't want to continue. The Clippers' minds was never in it. So this is the team. The team that we saw last night was the team that we expected to see all of last year. This team looked fiery. They answered the questions of, can we be a team? The camaraderie was there. The guys was falling on the floor. You had four guys running to help them up. Like, this was a complete team last night. Playoff P attacked. He looked confident. Obviously, he's been talking to it, and I'm not saying this to make fun, but it's a true thing. He talked to a mental health practitioner, and he continues to get better there because he looked confident. Kawhi was just Mr. Consistent. This was a really good team, and all those guys that you talked about that they traded for, and the Ibakas of the world, that they went out and got and acquired, they showed out. They showed up and played well. They won. They were the better team last night, and they validated what everybody felt in basketball last year.
Okay. Brandon, you did this earlier, but I'm going to ask Broussard the question. The Paul George pass, and Broussard, I'm going to invent a game here. It's called accountability or joylessness. Question to you, Broussard, on the first episode of Accountability or Joylessness. Paul George passing the ball to the ref. Everybody in the country thought this was funny except Paul George. And we've seen other teams do this. You pass the ball to the ref, the head coach is standing up there, you pass the ball to them, and largely the team goes, oh, and the bench is like, oh, look at you, ah. Paul George yelled at Luke Kennard. So, on the most optimistic scale, it's like, wow, mindset of a champion, mindset, you got to hold guys accountable. And on the more concerning side, it's like, dude, that's a funny moment. Have fun. It's the first night. Play basketball. So it's a question to you, first episode, accountability or joylessness, Broussard?
That's a tough one. I'm not going to make too much out of this, but I think it was joylessness. Because you're right, it should have been, kind of a chuckle. In the moment, I get it. George was embarrassed. And Kennard probably was supposed to be there on their early action. But it still was joylessness. I get where you're going, Wilds.
Jenna, can you believe
what, Nick?
We're going to do this again? We're gonna run it back with the Clippers.
I know, and you're going to have to give the same thing the whole season.
And we're gonna say the Lakers got lucky to avoid them after the Lakers dusted the Nuggets in 5,
Lemon pepper
and the Clippers couldn't beat the Nuggets. This is great.
Nick, they didn't want to be in the bubble.
They
didn't want to be in the bubble.
Nick Batum is coming through that door.
There was another game last night. It was a must-watch in Brooklyn. Steph is back for the Warriors against former teammate KD, making his Brooklyn's Nets debut. But this only went one way. Break it down next.